Recently, I posted a YouTube short about a DevSecOps project, and most of you wanted me to create a project and upload it on YouTube. So here we are watching Netflix. So this Netflix is actually hosted on my AWS account, and in this project, I am going to show you how you can create your own Netflix application using DevSecOps practices, which will include CICD using Jenkins, monitoring using Prometheus and Grafana, security using Sonarqube, Trivy, and more. Along with this, we are also going to use Argocd and Helm to deploy this application on Kubernetes. So before we go ahead and deploy our Netflix application on our cloud, let me explain you the architecture so you get the clear idea. So this is our project architecture. We start with creating an EC2 instance and deploying our application locally using Docker container. Once the application is running, we are going to integrate security using Sonarqube and Trivy. Once it is done manually, we are going to automate this process using a CI/CD tool, Jenkins. Jenkins is going to automate creation of Docker image, which is going to be secured and uploaded on Docker Hub. Now, once we have this process automated, we are going to integrate monitoring using Prometheus and Grafana. This Prometheus and Grafana is going to monitor our EC2 instance as well as Jenkins to check different things in Jenkins, like how much is CPU, how much is RAM, what are some successful jobs, what are failed jobs. Along with this, any of the job is failed or success, we are also going to get notifications on our email using SMTP. And once we automate this, we are going to deploy the application on Kubernetes using Argocd, the GitOps tool, and we will have monitoring on our Kubernetes cluster, which is going to be installed through Helm charts. And once we do this, we are going to have an application similar to this, which will be on our cloud. So this is our architecture. Now, an important note before we start with the project. This project is actually very lengthy, and most of you will come across issues and errors while doing this project. So don't worry, search for things online, learn the skill of troubleshooting. If you look on ChatGPT or documentation, you will find answers online. But if you don't, you can let me know in the comment section or also connect with me on LinkedIn and ask your questions there. Second thing is, this project is not in free tier. If you do this project, you will get charged for T2 large instances and for Kubernetes cluster. But even though you get charged, I will recommend you to please do this project once, because it is going to teach you a lot and will be a very good project on your resume. Third thing is, this project was actually done by Mr. Cloudbook on YouTube, or Ajay, and I had a chat with him on LinkedIn. If you're stuck at any issues and you want reference, you can also watch his video or go through his blog, which is actually very good. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope this video will help you learn a lot of new things. All the best. Let's do this project. Let's go.
Alright, let's start with deploying our Netflix application on AWS using DevSecOps practices. So in this video, we will be integrating security right from the start using tools like Sonarqube, Trivy, OAuth, and a lot more. For this, you will need an AWS account, and I already have checks created to help you follow along the steps. First thing, whenever you want to deploy an application, is to create a server. We are going to use EC2 instances for Jenkins and other stuff, but when our application is created and we have a Docker file ready, which is going to be very secure, then we deploy the application on Kubernetes using Argocd. So we also are going to integrate GitOps in this. Let's start with first creating a T2 large instance for Jenkins and also for Sonarqube and Trivy. So why are we using T2 large instance? This is because in our Jenkins, we are going to do a lot of stuff. We are going to install a lot of different plugins. So we need to have a big server. So I'm going to create a server. Let's name this as Netflix-Jenkins or anything you can name it. For operating system or AMI, I'm going to use Ubuntu 22. Now scroll down to select the instance type, and that is going to be T2 large. I know T2 large is not in free tier, but if you want to learn something, you have to spend some amount of money, and this project is going to teach you a lot. You will learn everything about Jenkins, about Sonarqube, how it works, what is Trivy, and all the other stuff. So this is going to be a very good project if you are someone who wants to learn about DevOps or DevSecOps. Now for keypair, I'm going to create a keypair that I already have. If you don't have it, you can go ahead and create a new keypair. For Linux, you can use PEM. Also for Mac, for Windows, you can use PPK, which you can connect through PuTTY or MobaXterm. I have Linux machine, so I already have a key created, and I'm going to use that. Now in the network settings, we are going to use the default VPC and also the subnet. But for firewall or security group, I'm going to create a new security group, which will only have the ports open that we require, or else it's not a secured project if all the ports are open. So we are going to only allow SSH for now, HTTPS and HTTP. This is because when you connect Jenkins with your Docker Hub talks on HTTPS, so we want this. Later on, while we do the project, we are going to include ports like 8080 for Jenkins, 9000 for Sonarqube, 9090 monitoring Prometheus. So that is why we are going to just add this for now and later on add more depending on the requirement. For storage, we are going to add around 25 GB of storage because, as I said, we are going to have a lot of different plugins, and I got this error of storage when I was doing it with less storage. So we are going to go with 25, which should be enough, and then go ahead with click on launch instance. For this project, we are going to use the GitHub that I have here, and I'm going to paste the link for this in the description. The code is present here. Along with the code, I also have the steps and the commands for you to copy and paste so that it makes easy for you. Now let's see if our instance is ready, and we should be able to connect to it. For connecting to an instance, before connecting to an instance, let's go and attach a Elastic IP. So because this is a lengthy project, you might be doing it in like 2 sittings or 3 sittings, so you need to have Elastic IP attached, so that even if you come after your break, and you should have the same IP address after you stop the instance, we will attach an Elastic IP address. So let's go to Elastic IPs in network and security and create an Elastic IP for this server. So I'm going to click on allocate Elastic IP, click on allocate option here. Now an Elastic IP is here. Let's name this as Netflix-EIP or Elastic IP. Save this, click on associate Elastic IP and search for the instance on which you want to attach this. So I have many instances here, but I'm going to select the one that I created, which is Netflix Jenkins, and it is in running state. So let's select that, click on associate, and now our Elastic IP is attached. Let's go to the instance again, and this is the instance which is now running. Let's click on connect option. To connect to a server, there are 4 different ways, and you can use any of them if you like. If you have MOBA, Xterm, or you have PuTTY in Windows, you can use SSH client. Same for terminal or Mac as well, you can use this. But the easiest way is to connect using EC2 Instance Connect, which is supported by Ubuntu and Amazon Linux. So we are going to use this. So I'm going to click on connect option here, and we should be inside our server. So it's establishing connection. If by any chance you're getting issue for connection, make sure the port 22 in your security group is open, and you can access the security group from here in the security section. I have port 22 open, and I have the keeper attached, so I am inside the server now. First thing, whenever we are inside the server, is to update all the packages. So I'll say sudo apt update -y. Okay, this is going to update all my packages, and then we are going to clone the code from this repo in our machine. So this video is going to be separated in 3 parts: dev, sec, and ops. So we'll start with dev, where we understand how to run the application locally. Then we integrate security into it. Then we do the ops part, where we are going to do CICD, where we are going to do monitoring and also deploy on Kubernetes. So for now, I'm going to clone this code. Let's copy this, come back to our server. The update is finished. So I'm going to do git clone and the URL for the repo, which is this. Once I do this, it will fetch the code from the repo, and we have the code here in a directory named as DevSecOps Project. Let's go in this and open it up. If I do ls, you can see the files of the project, and we also have a Docker file created. If you want to run this without Docker file, you can need to install npm, which is not here. So you can just run npm start and npm run, and you can run this project locally. But let's do it with Docker file. So if I do ls, you can see there's a Docker file here, and if I want to create a Docker image, I need to have Docker installed first. So for you to install Docker, you can go to the official documentation, or you can come to my repo. This is the command to install Docker. You just need to copy this and paste it in here. Once you copy and paste it, it will go ahead and start installing Docker. So till the time it is installing, let me explain you. The first command is to update all the packages. Second is to install Docker. Third is to put the Docker in the sudo group, so that we don't have to run Docker commands without sudo commands. Then we put the permission 777 on this Docker socket. So once this is done, we should be able to access Docker and then create Docker images and run the container as well. So right now Docker is installed. Let's say Docker version command. You can see the version is coming up, which means we have Docker installed. Let's do Docker build for this particular file and see if we can run the application as a container in our server before we do CI/CD or before we integrate security, because the first thing should be application should run, then you can integrate security, and then you can automate it. So I'll say Docker build -t to add a tag. Let's name this as Netflix, and then dot means get the image, get the file from here. So it's going to start creating an image, and this is usually 16 steps, so it will take some time. for the image to be created. Now till the time it is creating, let me show you the code. So I'm going to open my VS Code, which has the same code that I have on the GitHub, so you don't need to worry. So in this, I have a Docker file here. In the Docker file, you can see the base image is node 16, which means it is created on node. And then there are work directory copy and other instructions. But the most important one is this argument, which is asking you to have tmdb v3 API key. So if you know about API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it is used to talk between different servers. For example, let's say you have a weather application or you have a Uber application. You want to integrate map in it. So you can get the map API from someone who has already created it and then start using it in your application. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. In this application that we are going to create, we have the list of all the movies and the series on Netflix, and we want to have an API that can fetch these movies from somewhere and put it in our application. So as you can see, it's still creating. Once this is created, we will try to run the application and see if we are able to get the complete application or not, because the Docker file is asking for an argument and we haven't provided any argument yet. So most likely we will get a blank page which does not have any movies in it. And to troubleshoot that, we need to create an API key which is present on TMDB. So let's go ahead and do that till the time this is going to be created. So I'm going to search for TMDB, and TMDB stands for the movie database, and this is the place where you can get the API to fetch all the movies and series from here into your application that we are going to be creating now. So if to get the API key, you need to first log into this, and I already have an account created. If you are new, you just need to go for TMDB and click on this, click on login option, put your username and password, and then you can log in, start using TMDB and get the API key as well. Let me show you. Now the image is created. I'll do docker images, and you can see a Netflix image has been created. I think I misspelled it. You can see it's Netflix without I. So let's try to run this. I'm saying docker run -d -p 8081. Let's run this application on 8081, and then the ID, which is going to be this, or you can also put the name, which is Netflix. So I'm going to paste this and press enter, which will start running the container. Let's open this. Now it will only run if I have port 8081 open in my security group, which is not the case. So if I go back to my security group here, we only have 22, 443 and 80, and this is why it's still loading, and after some time it will give us connection timeout. So to avoid that, we'll go here in our security group and add some ports. So the first port is going to be for the application, which is on 8081. So 8081 anywhere IPv4 app port. Similarly, we are also going to add Jenkins in here. So Jenkins runs on port 8080. So I'll say 8080 anywhere IPv4, and this is for Jenkins. Along with this, we also have Sonarqube, which runs on port 9000. So I'll say 9000 anywhere IPv4 and Sonarqube. So this is what we have for now. If we need more ports, we'll add more ports later on. So let's try to access our application on port 8081 now that we have added the security group. So when I run this, you can see a Netflix coming up, and we should be able to see our application. But as we haven't provided any API key, we will get a complete blank one. And if you get this error, which is also the same case for the previous project that I did, most of you got the blank one because you didn't integrate API correctly. So API is used to fetch the data from somewhere into your application. So let's try building this again with providing the API key. So once you create this account, you're going to go to this, click on settings option. In the settings, you will find API option here, and in the API you need to copy this key. This is my key. You'll have to create your own key because I will be deleting this and this might not work for you. So please create your own. Now when I create this, I'll pass an argument like this. If you check here in the commands, this is what we ran, and we got an error because we didn't have API key. So you'll follow the steps of going to the DMDB, clicking on login and creating an API key for yourself. Once you have the API key, you need to copy this command, which is docker build command, but it's also passing an argument, which is the value of API key that we got from this particular thing. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in my server. Let's clear this by Control L. If I have any server, I'm going to stop that. So if I do docker ps, I have this server running. I'm going to say docker stop and stop this server for now. also docker rm, and then the same one. So this will be removed. If I do docker ps now, I don't have any server which is running or present. Alright, GitHub repo. So I'm going to say docker build -- build argument tmdb API key, and I need to put my API key here. So let's put the API key, copy and paste using Ctrl+Shift+V. Once I do this, it will go ahead and start creating the image again. This time it will not take a long time because Docker images are built on layers and they will only do the layer that is not done yet. So it will be done, and then we should be able to access our application, which will have all the movies and series as we have seen in this particular example. So let's wait for this to be created, and it's almost done. So this is the dev part of DevSecOps project. We are seeing how to deploy an application in our local machine, and then once we do it, we will integrate security, which will be security to make sure that the code is correct, the dependencies are correct, the image that we create is also correct, and everything else. So now the image is created, and you can confirm by saying docker images, and you can see an image has been created 12 seconds ago. So I'll say docker build docker run -d-p /8081:80, and then the name, which is going to be Netflix. You can either put the image name or image ID, it doesn't matter. Once I run this, it gives you a SHA output, which means the container is running, and now you can refresh this page. You need to remove the browse section here, 8081, and then when you press enter, you should be able to see an application which is having all the movies and the images. This is because now we have API key integrated, so you can see all the images, all the movies and everything, and you can access them as well. So this means now our application is running properly in the local machine. Let's do the sec part, which is adding security in this. So for security, we are using two main tools. One is Sonarqube. Most of you might have already heard about Sonarqube. Sonarqube is a tool to analyze code and to provide you with reports of what is the problem with your code. If there are any issues or any vulnerabilities, you can go ahead and configure it. So for Sonarqube, we are deploying this as a container, and you can get the command here. So I'm going to copy this, which is docker run -d, run a container named as Sonar, which should run on port 9000, and this is the image you want to use. So I'm going to copy and paste. This will go ahead and start fetching the Sonarqube image from Docker Hub into our machine. And once the image is done, we should be able to see a container running on port 9000. If you don't have port 9000 open on your security group, go ahead and do it. We already have it open, so that should not be a problem. Now you can see Docker container is also running for Sonar, and I can confirm that by running docker ps. We should have two containers. The first one is the Netflix, and the second one is Sonar. So let's access our Sonarqube on port 9000. I'm going to copy it and open it somewhere here. So let's paste this here, :9000. Once you do 9000, you should be able to see this Sonarqube page. As the container is created right now, it is going to take some time, usually a minute, to start, and then we should be able to log into it, and we are going to configure it later on. Along with Sonarqube, we are also using a tool named as Trivy, popular open source security tool, which is used for scanning vulnerabilities, also to check Docker images or to scan file systems, and we are going to use that too. So for Trivy, I already have the commands in the GitHub, so you can go to this section to install Trivy and copy the commands and paste it here. Now this will install Trivy for us, and let's go and check if our Sonarqube is up or not. So you can see Sonarqube is up, and it is asking you to log in. So the login and the password for Sonarqube default is admin, so I'll press admin here, and the password is also admin, so admin here. Once you log in, it will ask you to change the password, and you can change it. So old password is admin, new password could be something easy, let's say pass. You can put anything you like and then update it. Once you do that, you are now inside the Sonarqube page, and we are going to make these changes later on when we do the Jenkins part. So if you have this screen, you should be okay. Let me show you what is Trivy now. So we have installed Trivy, and if I type Trivy, I should be able to see all the options, which means Trivy is installed. So you can see Trivy is installed. You can also run Trivy version command to check the version. So as I said, Trivy is another open source security tool. It is used to scan file systems and give you a report of what is the problem with your file systems. Same for your Docker images. So let me show you an example. Let's try to scan the file system first. So right now in this file system, we have different files. As you can see, let's ask Trivy to scan it. So I'll say Trivy fs and space dot s to scan the current one. So yeah, it's going to scan it, and then you can see it's creating a report, and it gives you the vulnerability, that this is a vulnerability which is very high, and you can go and check it out, right? So you can get this report and also the logs. Similarly, if I want to check any image here, so if I do Docker images and I want to check the vulnerabilities in my Netflix image, I'll say Trivy image, and then the name of the image or ID of the image. So I'll say Netflix, or let's put the ID because you might be thinking that I'm scanning the official image which is on Docker app. So I'll do Trivy image this, and it will start scanning it, as you can see, and once the scan has been done, it will give you a report of what is the problem. So there are 8 severities, which is 2 are medium, 6 are high, and 0 are critical. So if you are most concerned about security, you can go and check it out and also change it. So we are using these 2 tools. So now we have the dev part done, we have the sec part done. We've added 2 security tools, Trivy and Sonarqube. Let's do the ops part, where we are going to integrate CICD pipeline, and we are doing CICD using a very popular tool which is Jenkins. So we are going to install Jenkins, and the commands for installing Jenkins are here again on my GitHub, but you can always use the official documentation if you want to. And if you look at this official documentation, you will see that when you want to install Jenkins, you also need to have Java installed, right, or else you will get an error. So in this GitHub, I also have Java part here, and then the Jenkins part. So I'm going to copy this simply and paste it in our server. So if you're using a smaller instance, let's say T2 medium or anything T2 micro, you might see that your instance is very, very slow, and this is because you need to upgrade it to T2 large. And if you haven't, you can upgrade it easily by going to the instance, stopping it first, and then going to actions, edit instance settings, change instance type, and make it to bigger instance. But again, if you stop it, the IP will be changed. This is why we have added elastic IP address. So coming back here, let's see if our Jenkins is installed or not. And Jenkins runs on port 8080. So if you want to configure Jenkins, you need to make sure that the port 8080 is open in your security group. Now I'm trying to make this as simple as I can, and I'm sure most of you will still have questions, and that's fine. You can ask questions in the comment section, or you can ask me on LinkedIn. But I want you to do this project because this project will teach you a lot, and this will also be a very good project on your resume. So make sure you complete this till the end. There are a lot of things we need to learn in this. So now we'll see, you can see setting up Jenkins here. It also created a symlink. Let's wait for some time so that we can access Jenkins and start with creating a CI/CD pipeline for our project. So now Jenkins is installed according to this. To confirm, you can say sudo service Jenkins status. If the status is running, which means it is installed successfully. So I'm going to go and open Jenkins on port 8080. So I'll say 8080, and this will bring me on the sign-in page for Jenkins. For whenever you start with Jenkins, the password is always stored in this path. So I'm going to copy this path, go to my server, Control C to close this, and Control L to clear the screen. Sudo cat is a command to read the file, and then the path, which is admin password. Once I do this, I get this admin password, which I'm going to copy and paste it in this administrator password section. Let's click on continue option. Once you click on continue, it will ask you if you want to customize Jenkins by installing suggested plugin, or you want to select plugins that you want to install. So I'll go with install suggested plugins, and then this will go ahead and start installing all the suggested plugins for you. So this usually takes some time, which is why I'm going to go to my GitHub and show you the next steps that we are going to do. So as we know, Jenkins is a CI/CD tool, and whenever you want to do CI/CD, you need to make sure that the server or the Jenkins has all the necessary plugins. So this application is on Node, so we'll need to add Node.js, we need to add Java, we also need to have Sonarqube because we're going to integrate Sonarqube in our CI/CD pipeline. So we'll add some plugins, and the plugins name can be found here. So these are the 3 plugins we will need to install as of now. Later on we will install more when we add monitoring and when we add Docker as well. So for now, you can see it's asking you to create first admin user. You can create it if you want, but I'm going to skip and continue as admin because I don't want to do that. You can also add your own domain name if you have any, but for this demo I don't have any domain names. I'm going to say save and finish, and yeah, we just read Jenkins is ready. Let's start using Jenkins. Okay, so we are inside the Jenkins dashboard. As I said, we need to install some plugins. So let's go to manage Jenkins option here and click on plugin section here. In the plugins, click on available plugins and search for Node.js. This is the plugin you need to install. Along with this, we also need to search for Eclipse. So Eclipse Tamarind installer, which is used for JDK. So I'll do that. And also Sonarqube. So Sonarqube scanner. And let's install this. We don't need to actually restart unless Jenkins is asking us to. So if it says success, you don't need to install it. Once you don't need to restart it. So once you install these plugins, you need to go and set them in the tools section. So I'll go to tools here and we will set the tools for Node.js and JDK. You can see JDK installation here. Click on add JDK and we are saying install automatically. Install it from the adoptm.net and the version is going to be JDK 17.0.81+1 and let's name this as JDK 17. Make sure you use the same name as I do because we are going to use these names in the CICD pipeline and it has to be the same. So in this tool section, we are going to have the same name. So make sure you use the same names or else your pipeline might fail. So once you do that, let's go down and search for Node.js, which is here. In the Node.js, I'm going to also say install automatically and I'm going to choose the version which is going to be 16.2.0. Yeah, and let's name this as Node 16. You can see the name of the tool is also Node 16. Alright, so once you do that, click on apply option and then click on save. If you remember, we also installed something for Sonarqube, but we haven't used it here. This is because we need to first connect Sonarqube with Jenkins and then we can add a system and then the tool. So let's go to Sonarqube here and let me show you how to configure it. So in the Sonarqube, once you have this page, click on administration section and click on security part. Click on users. In the user, you will see administrator and you can create token here. So click on this update tokens option and put a name. So I'm going to say Netflix, or you can put anything, Jenkins, and click on generate option and then copy this token. Come back to Jenkins, click on credentials option here. In the credentials, let's create a credential for the token that we created now because that is going to be used when you create a Sonar scanner tool in Jenkins tool section. So I'm going to add credentials and is it going to be secret text? So put the text here or the secret here, which is the token that we copied from Sonarqube. For ID, I'm going to say sonar-token and same for the description. Let's create it. Once you do that, come back to, you should be able to see this and then come back to manage Jenkins. Click on systems option here. In the system, search for Sonarqube. So I'm going to do Control F. Let's search for Sonar and you can see Sonarqube servers and then installation. So click on add Sonarqube and in this we need to put the name. So for the name we are going to say Sonar-server. For the URL we are going to copy the URL that is present here. Usually both of these Jenkins and Sonarqube are on the same server. So you can also put localhost, but I'm going to copy the IP address with the port 9000 and put it in my Jenkins here. Alright, for authentication we are going to use the token that we added now, which is sonar-token, and that is all we need for now. In the system section, click on apply and click on save. Now if you come back to the CICD pipeline, you can see there's also a tool that we're using which is known as Sonar Scanner. So we need to create this tool too. So I'm going to go to manage Jenkins again. In the tool section, let's go and search for Sonarqube now. So you'll see Sonarqube scanner installation. Let's add that. Let's name this as sonar-scanner. Make sure to have the same name as you see in this particular pipeline. So I'll do that and leave the version as it is. Click on apply and click on save. So our pipeline is ready to deploy an application now. So I'm going to click on new item. So let's give the name. Name is going to be Netflix. You can name it anything you like. Click on pipeline option because we are creating our own pipeline that we have. and then click on OK option here. Once you click on OK, you need to go to pipeline section and you need to paste the pipeline that I have here. But if you are new to Jenkins or if you're new to Groovy pipeline, you can use this tool, which is pipeline syntax. So let's copy this for now and go back in this, paste it, click on apply and save, and then run the pipeline. So till the pipeline is going to be created or running, I'll explain you the code now for the pipeline here. So in this, we are creating a pipeline which is using some tools named as JDK 17 and Node 16. We also use Scanner, which is Sonar Scanner. Then there is some stages. The first stage is to clean the workspace to make sure everything is clean and fresh. Next is to check out from the Git. So get the code from the GitHub. The next code is to run Sonarqube analysis on that code to make sure that everything is fine, and if there are any issues, we should get an error. So you can see there's a project key named as Netflix here, and we need to create that. So if I go to users and admins, and I need to click on projects option here, click on manually, give the name. So I'll give the name as Netflix because that is what we use in our CICD pipeline. And if you click on locally, you click on generate. This is what you get after you choose the operating system and the code. And this is what we have used in our code here as well, dsonar.project.key, dsonarproject.name. So you can see the pipeline has, I guess, came up to this. This is why we are seeing this thing here. So let me show you. In here we are done with the Sonarqube analysis, and this is why we have a report being created on Sonarqube page. So it has scanned around 3.2k lines, and we can also see more information about issues. So these are all the different issues, and you can see bugs, code smells, vulnerabilities, scope, and everything. So if you look at this error, this is saying that you have used as a smaller case. You need to replace it as a bigger case to make sure your code is proper. These are all the different security checks that it has done on our code present in the GitHub repo. So this means our pipeline is run, and if you look at the last stage after the Sonarqube, we have quality gate. The quality gate is something which will check if everything is fine and then move on to the next stage. If you don't know what quality gate is, let's just have a quick look at it. So if I do quality gate, you can see quality gate is a milestone in IT project that requires that predefined criteria be met before the project can proceed to the next phase. So we are doing a quality check to make sure everything is fine and then go ahead and install our dependencies which will deploy our application. So yeah, this is what we have till now. Let's go and see if we have done some task here. So we created a T2 instance, large instance, that is done. We have Jenkins CICD pipeline with security. This is still in progress because now we have only 4 or 5 stages, which is to install have Sonarqube, but we also used Trivy in our project, if you remember, and this is not in Docker container yet, so we need to install Docker to make sure in the Jenkins to make sure that we are creating a build which is going to be Docker image. We also need to integrate Trivy here to check the image, and if you see there is dependency here, so we need to make sure that the dependencies that we install are also secure. Because if you remember about there was a news about log4j which caused issues. If you haven't read about it, go and read about it. So log4j flaw allows an attacker to put it into their own JNDI lookups. This is why we need to make sure that whatever dependency we use, we need to it should be secured and it should be protected, not causing any issue to our application. This is why we need to add some dependency checker. So if I do dependency check Jenkins, this is what it comes up with, OApps dependency check, and we are going to use this tool to integrate more security in our pipeline. So let's go to this. Till the time it is going to be creating, let's go and install some more plugins for Docker and for OApps dependency check. So let's go to manage Jenkins option, click on plugins. In the plugins, click on available plugins option and search for OApps. So you can read about it if you want to. I'm going to install it. Along with this, we also need to have Docker. As we said, we are going to create a Docker build, which is Docker image, and then push it on Docker Hub. I already have an image created, but I'm going to delete it in front of you so that we can show you that pipeline will create an image for us. So this is my Docker Hub. You can see an image has been created 18 hours ago. So I'm going to just go ahead and delete this image by going to settings, delete repo, Netflix, delete. So this will delete, and now I don't have any repo with that name. It should be created through pipeline every time the pipeline is going to be running. So coming back to our here, I'm going to search for Docker, and we need to install Docker, Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, and Docker Build Step. Now click on install option. For you to manage Jenkins, or you to manage Docker Hub or push the code image from Jenkins to Docker Hub, you need to log into Docker Hub using Jenkins 2. So I'm going to log into this. For you to log in, you need to add the credentials. I'm going to go to manage Jenkins and click on credentials option here, and click on system credential, click on global credential and restricted, then click on add credential, and in here we are going to pass username and password for our Docker Hub. So the username is the username for my Docker Hub, which is Nasi101, and the password is my password, and ID is going to be Docker. This can be anything, but I'm going to put Docker, same for this here, and click on create. Now we have added credentials for Docker here, so whenever we want to push an image, we should be able to log in using this credential. Now we also need to set the tools for OApps that we downloaded, and also for Docker Hub. So before I do the Docker Hub part, let's do the OApps dependency check. You can see the dependency check installation is here. For name, I'm going to say dp-check. Make sure you use the same name, because that is what we are using again in the next part of our CICD pipeline. You can find this here. We are using a tool named as dp-check, that we are using a tool named as dp-check. So I'll use the same name. Come back here, dp-check. I'm going to say install automatically from github.com, and this can be okay with this, or you can change it if you want. You can see Docker installation part here, and click on let's give a name. For the name, I'm going to give it as just Docker, install automatically from docker.com, and then latest version is fine. And I'm going to click on apply option here, apply and save, and yeah, that is what we need. Now we can add a pipeline which will be going to scan images through Trivy, check dependencies through OApps, and also create an image using the command. So let me show you the pipeline rather than explaining you this way. So I have my readme section here, and you can see after you do the OAP scan, you will going to run the docker build command. So docker build using the API key, we need to put our API key here, then docker tag, docker push, and this will push our image to our repo which is on Docker Hub. Once you do that, we are going to then scan the image using Trivy, and then run the container locally in our machine. So right now I'm going to delete the container that I have already. So let's do docker ps, and I'm going to delete the container, or after I stop it. So I'll say docker stop, and then this container ID, and also docker rm, because we want this to be automatically created through Jenkins. So now if I do docker ps, I don't have any server named as Netflix. Okay, alright, let's go ahead and copy our new pipeline which has more stages in it, and then paste it in the pipeline section. So I'm going to copy this, go to our Jenkins, go to manage Jenkins. You can see this pipeline is still running, and this is stuck at quality gate because it's still checking if everything is fine or not. But you can see Sonarqube has been integrated, and if I click on this, it will come back to the page which shows us everything about our code and what problems is it. So for now I'm going to stop this and use a new pipeline. So I'm going to click on configure option here. Let's go to pipeline, and we have the same kind of pipeline, but we are just adding few more stages in it. Now when I build this, I want to put my API key, which you should put your own. So I'm going to remove this and copy the API key from here, put it in my pipeline. Okay, so we are using the same pipeline that I have in the readme section of my GitHub. First stage is to clean up workspace, get the code, Sonarqube analysis, then do the quality gate check, install dependencies, run the dependency scanner, then scan the file system, run the commands to build the image, tag the image, and also to push the image. Once the image is created, we want it to be scanned by Trivy, and then we want the image to be deployed as a container on the server. So to avoid getting errors all the time, I'm going to remove this Netflix name parameter, because you cannot have same names all the time. So if you read in the pipeline, you might get an error saying that the name has been used. So we don't want to have a name. We can ask Docker to put a random name according to it. So for now, I'm going to click on apply option, and let's click on save, and let's see if this pipeline is going to pass or not. So I'm going to build now, and this will start running the build, running the pipeline. So till the time it is going to be running, let's go and add monitoring, which is going to be the next part of our ops section. So this is going to take some time. Until the time we are going to install or monitoring to monitor our server, and also Jenkins, and later on if we have Kubernetes, we are also going to monitor that Kubernetes, and which is going to be interesting because we are going to install Prometheus through Helm, also node exporter. So let's do that. I'm going to go to instance, and for you to have monitoring enabled, we need to create another T2 medium instance for monitoring server. I tried doing this on the same T2 large, and it was very slow. This is why you need to have a separate server, and so we are going to do that by going to launch instance option and start a new server. Let's name this as monitoring. Select the same AMI, which is Ubuntu. For instance type, I'm going to select T2 medium. Why are we selecting T2 medium and not T2 micro? Or because if you look at system requirements for Prometheus, what are minimum requirements for? So yeah, this is asking you for 2 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM. So we can get 4 GB only in T2 medium, not in T2 micro. This is why we are using 2 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM. Let's add a key pair. I'm going to use the same key pair I used earlier. And for security group, you can have a separate security group if you want. Let's add a separate one, which will have ports open for Grafana, for Prometheus, and if anything else that you have, you will need to open it. So for now, I'm just adding HTTPS and SSH. For storage, we want something more than 20 GB, because if you see again here, we need to have 20 GB of free disk. So let's add 20 GB. Now most of you might be worried about the cost you will get, and I know you might get some amount of cost, but this will teach you a lot of things. So I want you to please do it once and create a LinkedIn post or post this on resume, which will help you. So it's a good return on investment, even if you spend some amount of money. Coming back to our pipeline, just to check if everything is working fine, and you can see all the checks have been passed. Now it is scanning the dependencies, and you can check the logs by clicking on this. And if I scroll down, you can see this Sonarqube has also done the configuration, and you can get the result on the Sonarqube page. After the scan, it is then doing the dependency check, which is here. Now it is installing dependencies. When the dependencies are installed, it is then going to use the dependency check tool to check the dependencies, and we should also get a report somewhere here after it is done. And then it is going to do the Docker build, Docker push, and we should have an image being created in our Docker hub. Right now we don't have any image created as Netflix. You might see other image like gateway auth converter, which is another project I'm going to create very soon. If you like this project, I will create more of these. So yeah, right now let's go and try to set up Prometheus on the instance that we created. I'm going to open this. Again, for this instance, we are also going to attach elastic IP just to avoid the IP to be changed. So I'm going to go to elastic IP section here and click on allocate elastic IP. Click on allocate again, and this is the new IP. Let's name this as monitoring -EIP. Click on save, and then click on actions, click on associate. In this, I'm going to select the instance that I want to attach this elastic IP to, which is monitoring. Click on associate, and then this elastic IP is attached. If you go back to instances, click on monitoring one, you'll see that an elastic IP address is attached, which is what we want. Now let's connect to it and install Prometheus, Grafana, node exporter, everything necessary for the monitoring. And I have all the commands here, so you don't need to worry about it. So in this section below, you will see install Prometheus and Grafana. This is the fourth phase, which is the monitoring phase. Till the time we'll come back and check, this is still doing the scan, so we have to wait for the pipeline to be done and then push the code on Docker up. So to avoid wasting time, let's do the Prometheus part. First thing, whenever we have a new server, is to update all packages. I'll say sudo apt update -y, and this should start updating all the packages. Once the update is done, I'm going to go to my GitHub repo, copy the commands, to install and configure Prometheus. If you see, the first command is to add a user or to create a user named as Prometheus with all these parameters. Next command is to install git Prometheus from the official Prometheus repository, and which is going to be in the zip format, and then we will unzip it or tar zip it. So let's go and copy this. The upgrade has been done. I'm going to clear the screen and paste the command, which is going to create the user and also install Prometheus. Once the Prometheus is installed, you can do ls to see that the Prometheus is installed and it is in .zip folder. So I need to unzip it. So I'll go back here, copy the command. This is to unzip. This is to then go inside the folder, create a directory named as data and Prometheus, move all the necessary files, which is Prometheus and prom tool, inside local bin, the consoles and console libraries inside Prometheus folder, and then prometheus.yaml file inside this particular folder. And we are going to see what is Prometheus YAML, what is prom tool, what is Prometheus app as well. So let's copy this. So I'm going to paste this now and press enter, and this is now not showing an error because we have the Prometheus.zip file here. Alright, now once this is done, if I do ls, you can see there are no files. All of these are put it in the particular path. Let's go to that path. I'll say cdhc Prometheus, and if I do ls here, inside this we have console libraries, consoles and Prometheus YAML, which we moved. As you can see, we are moving console libraries into this path at C Prometheus, and we have prom tool and Prometheus in this particular path. Let's go there, and if I do ls, you can see Prometheus and prom tool are here. So Prometheus is the main application which is going to monitor it. Prom tool is a query tool that uses query language or queries to get the data about the monitoring. Prometheus.yaml is where you will set the servers which you want to monitor, and for you to actually monitor, you need to have something known as node exporter. So if I show you what it is, node exporter is an agent that gathers system metrics and exposes them in a format which can be ingested by Prometheus. So along with Prometheus, we also need to have node exporter which will extract the metrics, and that metrics are going to be used by Prometheus to show us how much is the CPU, how much is the RAM, and all the monitoring stuff. So to install node exporter, again you need to go to my GitHub repo. But before you do this, haven't completed the Prometheus part yet. We need to change the permissions for these files and create a service for Prometheus, because now if I do sudo service Prometheus, there is no service named as Prometheus, so it will give me an error. So we need to create a service. So it says unrecognized service. Let's go here, copy the commands to first change the permission. Right now, if I show you the permissions for this prom tool and Prometheus, we will see who is the owner and everything else. So the owner is Ubuntu for console libraries, for Prometheus, YAML, everything. So we will need to change the owner to the user that we created on the first step, which is the Prometheus user. Let's do that by running the command chown -r Prometheus : and the name of the directories. Once I do that, press enter, and now if I check, the user is Prometheus now. The owner is Prometheus. After you do this, let's create a service which should start our Prometheus service. So I'm going to copy this command, which is nano, and create a service named as Prometheus service inside systemd/system folder. So let's copy this and paste it in the monitoring server. This will open in a nano tab where we need to paste this thing, which is a service configuration, and you can read about them here. But yeah, this is a service configuration that we are using for our Prometheus. Once I save this and I start it, you should be able to see that Prometheus has been installed, and we should be able to access it on particular port 2. So when I do this, it will start and enable it. Now if I check the status by running sudo systemctl status Prometheus, it will show me it is running and active. So let's try to access it. I'm going to copy and open it in a new port. So Prometheus runs on port 9090, which is here. So you need to make sure that your instance has port 9090 opened or not. So I'll go to security and click on this security groups. In the edit inbound rules, I'll add a security group rule for 9090 from anywhere IPv4 for Prometheus. Okay, let's do that. Click on save rules, and now when I access this application on 9090, I should be able to see the Prometheus page. So you can see Prometheus here, Prometheus time series collection and processing. Okay, so we have Prometheus here, and you can click on status, click on targets to check the targets. Right now we don't have any targets apart from the local host one, but we can add more. But before we add the targets, or we want to get the metrics, we need to install Node Exporter, as we know. So let's go to the Node Exporter installation part, which is here. So you'll need to run these commands one by one and then create a service for Node Exporter, which will fetch the metrics that are going to be used by Prometheus. So till the time, let's go and check, have a look at our pipeline, what's the status. So pipeline has been failed. Why is pipeline failed? Let's do a quick check. If I go to console output and I scroll down, it says it has done the dependency check, as you can see, and you might also see the output somewhere here. You can see dependency check section here, and you can also have a look at the dependency check. So there are severities and you can also find it. So this is another security part that we added, but the pipeline is failing, and let's see why it is failing actually. So I'll scroll down to the end and it says Docker login failed. So in the Docker login section it says downloading Docker client latest, when doing Docker login, failed to get the registry endpoint from daemon, permission denied while trying to connect to the Docker daemon socket at this. So usually if you get this error, go ahead and check if your security group has port HTTP or HTTPS open or not, and I'll just go and do it real quick. So I'll go to my instance and I'll go to my Jenkins section, go to security. In this I have HTTPS already opened also, as well as HTTP, so it's not a problem with the port. Now if you get an error similar to me, which is Docker login failed, you can go ahead and go into your instance. In the instance you need to run the two commands, which is to add Jenkins in the Docker group. So first you need to go to sudo su, you'll do sudo su and run the command, which is sudo usermod -a-g docker jenkins, and then restart Jenkins, which is using this command. So I'm going to paste these two commands in the readme section if you get an error which is Docker login. I got this error earlier, and after some troubleshooting, now you can see the build is running. Let me show you the other previous pipelines. So all of these pipelines are failing at Docker login error. So if you get this error, even though you have credentials and the tools created, you need to run the command, which I'm going to share with you. Let me just add it here for reference. If you get Docker login failed error in your pipeline, you just need to run these two commands. Make sure you have sudo su done as well, because this will run only in the root user. So once you do this, your pipeline should run fine and your image should be created as well. If I show you, the latest pipelines is running and it should also have pushed the image. So this is the sixth one, which is running right now. If you see the console output, you can see the image is being created, and it also says Docker login succeeded. So once this pipeline is passed, we should be able to see a repo and an image created on our Docker hub. So yeah, this is how you can troubleshoot it. Let's continue with our monitoring section till the time this pipeline is still running. So I'm going to go to my monitoring part. In this we were installing Node Exporter. So right now, if I show you, the previous command was to check Prometheus running or not. After you have Prometheus running, you will go ahead and install Node Exporter by running these commands one by one. So I'm going to copy this. The first command is to create a user named as Node Exporter, then installing Node Exporter from the official repo. So I'll paste that in the monitoring server, and this will start installing Node Exporter. If I do ls, you see a Node Exporter file has been created. Let's untar this. I'll go to the next command, and this is the command that is going to move the exporter in this particular folder. So let's copy this and then remove the Node Exporter thing. So tar xvf move, and then it's done. So if I show you, ls-user local bin, we have Node Exporter app here as well. Now once you do that, you also need to create a service similar to what we did for Prometheus. So let's go here, copy this command to create a service under systemd/system. So I'll copy this, paste it here, and this will create a open nano. Just copy what you have in this section. So copy and paste, Control S, Control X to exit. Now run the commands to start and enable the Node Exporter. Once you enable it, you should be able to have node exporter started, and you can confirm by running sudo service node exporter status, and it is running. Coming back just to check if our pipeline is working fine, and it says success, which means now it has also done the Trivy image part, that is in the next stage, and it also has created the image, pushed it. Let's confirm. If I refresh, you should be able to see a Netflix image being created here. So yeah, Netflix image is being created. So we have successfully created a pipeline which is going to get the code, create an image, do all this scanning, make sure everything is perfect, image is secured, and then puts that image on Docker Hub, which can be used by anyone because this is a public one. So I can have a Kubernetes cluster using this image and run my application through a GitOps, which we are going to do very soon. But before we do that, let's set up monitoring, which will make sure everything is running fine. And we also need to monitor CPU and RAM for our server as well as for Jenkins. So right now we are going to go and do the monitoring part. But yeah, this is what we did till now. You can also see a Netflix server, a container is also running. And to confirm that, if I go to my here and I do docker ps, I should see a Netflix application running, which is running about a minute ago, and this is done through CICD using Jenkins. So we have done most of the part. Now we need to do the monitoring part, which we are doing right now by installing Node Exporter. Once we have Node Exporter installed, we need to now edit the Prometheus.yaml file. So if you go to here, and you can see after you have this done, you need to do the configuration, which is to add jobs inside the Prometheus.yaml file. So I'll go here inside cd/hc/prometheus. In this you have a file named as prometheus.yaml. This is the file which you need to edit whenever you want to monitor something. So if I go here and I show you, it has something known as job name, and then this. So if you see, there's also already a job named as Prometheus, and it's scanning on localhost 9090. This is what you see here as well. So name is Prometheus and it's scanning localhost 9090. Let's add for Node Exporter and also for Jenkins. So for now I'm going to nano this. So I'll say sudo nano prometheus.yaml, and in this I'll go down to add a job for my Node Exporter. Make sure the indentation is correct. You need to put the job name exactly below the job name as you see here. So I'll do that, job_name is going to be the job name. Let's name this as Node Exporter. So also Node Exporter, and then you need to put static_configs. So static_configs, and then put the target where it is actually. So for target, you need to make sure the target is also in the same line. So I'll say targets : and then in square brackets I need to put the path. So I can put localhost because Node Exporter is here, or else I can just put the IP address along with the path. So I'll put this, and the path port for Node Exporter is 9100. As you can see here, this is what we are going to add. You can simply copy and paste it if you don't want to do this. So I'm going to add the port as 9100, close the double quotes, close the bracket, save it, and Control X. If you're not sure your syntax is correct or not, you can simply copy this command, which is to check the syntax using the prompt tool. And if I run this, it should give me a success if everything is fine, or else it will give me a failed error. Now once this is done, you need to reload this by running curl command. So I'm going to reload, and now after I reload, I should be able to see a target for Node Exporter here. So I'm going to reload, and I have the, now if I refresh, you should be able to see a new target coming up here, which is going to be for our Node Exporter. So yeah, you can see it's still unknown. Let's wait for some time and it will come in a healthy state. And if you click on this link, you will see all the metrics coming up. Let's wait, which is going to be used by Prometheus for showing us CPU, memory, and all the other monitoring stuff. So let's wait for this to come up. Okay, I think this is showing us error because we don't have port 9100 open in our security group. Let's do that real quick. I'll go to instance, I'll go to monitoring, go to security, and click on this, edit inbound rules, add a rule, custom 9100, click on anywhere IPv4, and this is node exporter. Click on save rules, and yeah, this is what we need to do. Now it should be able to get the metrics, and you can see the metrics are here. We also should be able to see the exporter being up right now once we refresh the page. So make sure you always have security groups with particular ports open, or else you will get a timeout error, or your this will load and it will show timeout issue. But yeah, now we can see it is up. Let's set up Grafana real quick to see all of this in a nice dashboard. So to install Grafana, I also have a command in my readme section. You can see this is the command to install Grafana on Ubuntu 22 and set it up to work with Prometheus. So I'm going to copy this command one by one and paste it here to install Grafana on my system. Grafana runs on 3000, so we need to also add port 3000 in our security group. So I'll do that real quick. 3000 anywhere IPv4 Grafana. If you are confused about different ports, make sure you watch this video till the end and take a screenshot of all the ports we have, and then add it in the first, just to avoid issue. But every time your application is loading or buffering, or it says timeout issue, it's always a security group problem. So now once I run this command, I'm going to go and copy the next commands, which is to add the GPG key. It should give you an output saying OK after you run this command. So when I run this, it should give me an output saying OK. After I run this, I need to add the repository for Grafana. So I'll say echo, and this should give me back this, which is correct. And then we can go ahead with update command and then install Grafana. So let's say sudo apt update and sudo apt get install upon Grafana. Okay. Now Grafana will be installed, and you can enable it, start it, check the status, and it should be running on port 3000, where we will be installing some dashboard and see all the things in nice dashboards. So now Grafana is installed. You can run the enable command. To enable it, you can then run the start command to start the Grafana service, and then you can run the status command to check if it is running or not. So I'll run status and it is running. Let's copy this and open it on port 3000, where we have Grafana set up. So I'll say 3000, and you can see Grafana coming up. So Grafana is another monitoring tool which is used likely with Prometheus, but you can use Grafana with InfluxDB and Prometheus and any other monitoring tool as well, which will help you get the metrics in the form of dashboard full of charts and graphs. So let's wait for this to be done, and then we can go ahead and log into our Grafana. For username and password, you need to put admin, which is the default username and password for Grafana. Click on login option. You can choose to change the password if you want. I'm going to click on skip now. I'm not going to save this. Let's load, and now we have Grafana dashboard here. First thing you need to do is to click on data sources option and choose the Prometheus as a data source, because we are using Prometheus. If you were using InfluxDB or Elasticsearch or anything, we would be using that, but I'm going to use Prometheus here, and data source has been added. Now once the data source has been added, you can choose to put the URL here. So I'm going to copy this. Even though I can put localhost, I'll still copy and paste it here. So this, and you just need to click on save and test, and it says successfully queried, and this is what we want. Now click on three dots here, go to dashboards, click on the plus symbol on the top, and we don't have any dashboard here. If you look at this, you don't have no dashboard. So I'm going to click on import dashboard option, and we want the dashboard for node exporter now that we have node exporter metrics shown. So I'll import a dashboard, and if you don't know what is the number or what is the URL, just search for node exporter Grafana dashboard, and this is the grafana.com page, which will give you the ID, and you can just click on copy ID, which is 1860, I guess. Let's paste it here. Yeah, it's 1860. Click on load option, it will load it. Now you need to click on select the Prometheus data source, click on import, and you will now see a nice dashboard which will show us CPU, memory, RAM, everything like this. Right, this is what you would be checking, and you can have more information about the node exporter in a nice looking Grafana dashboard. Now similar to this, let's also monitor Jenkins, and to monitor Jenkins we need to install a plugin in Jenkins that we usually do. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to go here in the dashboard, click on Manage Jenkins option. In the Manage Jenkins section, I'm going to install a plugin for Prometheus metrics. So let's go to available plugins and search for Prometheus, and this is the one you need to install. After you install it, you also need to configure a system. So I guess it wants you to restart it, but let's see. So yeah, it wants you to restart, so I'm going to click on restart option and this will restart it. If you're restarting, make sure you have your password ready, because you will need to log into your password if you haven't changed it. So this command sudo cat var lib jenkins secret, and once I do this, I'm adding my password, which is required after you do the restart because you need to log in again. So yeah, let's wait for this to be done, and put the username as admin, password as the password that you copied from there, and sign in. Now I'm inside the Jenkins. Let's go to Manage Jenkins again and click on Systems option to set up a system for Prometheus server. So click on System. So you might see that your Jenkins is a bit slow because there are many things that we have installed on this particular server, so it might be a bit slow. But if you use something lower than T2 large, it will be extremely slow. So this is why we require T2 large instance for this particular project. So if you scroll down below, you should see Prometheus somewhere. If you don't see it, just do a Control F and you can see Prometheus here. We are not going to change anything as of now. This is all we need. So yeah, let's click on apply and click on save option. Now for you to manage Jenkins monitoring through Prometheus, you also need to add Jenkins in the prometheus.yaml file, if you remember. So let's go to our monitoring server. In the monitoring server, if I do ls, this is a prometheus.yaml where we entered our node exporters IP. Similarly, we'll do that for Jenkins as well. So I will do sudo nano and prometheus.yaml, and if you are not sure how to do that, you can just simply go and copy this thing here. If you see, you should be able to get metrics on this particular path. Let's see, Prometheus, and you're actually getting metrics here. So we are going to query metrics from this path. We need to add a job so it can be shown on this, and also we'll later on add a dashboard to see Jenkins in Grafana dashboard too. So let's go here. Let's go down to add a job for Jenkins. So I'll press enter. Under job name, I'll say job. Make sure that the indentation is correct, or you can also check later on using prompt tool. But yeah, job name is going to be Jenkins. Then I'm going to put static config. So static underscore configs, and then the target is going to be targets. Targets is going to be the IP address of the Jenkins server and along with the port, which is 8080. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, :8080, and then this. But we also need to put the path, because by default the path is metrics, but we have the path as Prometheus here, as you can see. So we'll put the path as Prometheus. So you can check this section. This is what we need to add: metrics path equals to Prometheus. Alright, now let's Control S this and run the other commands to check if the configuration is right, which is prompt tool check config. And then we are going to, okay, we got an error saying there's some issue with line 39. Okay, let's see what is the issue. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't add the double quotes at the end, so I'll do that. And now I'll check again. It says success, which means the configuration is correct. Apart from next, we need to run the reload command so that we can see Jenkins here. So I'll run the reload command and it's reloaded. Let's refresh this page, and now Jenkins should be shown here. Okay, in the targets you can see Jenkins and it's up. Let's add a dashboard for Jenkins too. So I'm going to click on plus symbol here and import a dashboard. Let's do the same thing, search for Jenkins Grafana dashboard, and you will get the number for the dashboard. So I'll click on here and then copy ID for the dashboard. After you copy it, just paste it here. 9964 is the ID. Click on load option, select the data source as Prometheus, and then click on the import option. Once you do that, you will see a nice looking dashboard like this, which is going to give you data about Jenkins. What is the CPU, what is the RAM, how many executors are free, how many executors are using, how many of them are successful jobs, failed jobs, aborted jobs. So now if I go ahead and try to run a pipeline, I should be able to see the monitoring about it. So build now, and this will start building our pipeline, and you can see the changes very soon in our monitoring dashboard. So we have successfully done monitoring for our server and also for Jenkins. We also have CICD in place to create Docker images and also to push it on Docker Hub. So the project is almost done, and you can see our pipeline is running as well. It's also creating a Docker image which is being pushed on Docker Hub. So we are almost done with the project. The only part remaining in the pipeline is the notification, which will be sent to the email, which will contain Trivy scans and reports. But if you want to continue with learning how to deploy this application on Kubernetes using Argocd and also to enable monitoring using Helm, do continue. Doing this is optional because I know you will be charged when you create Kubernetes cluster, but if you want to learn, you can go ahead and create a cluster and do it along with me. For now, let's go and enable notification. To enable notification, you need to have an Gmail account. I already have a Gmail account, which is here. And if you want to go here, you need to click on manage your Google account. This page will come up. You need to click on security section. In the security section, you need to have 2FA enabled, which is two-factor authentication. You can see mine is already enabled. After you enable it, just search for app passwords, because Gmail does not allow you to use your real username and password. So you will search for app passwords here, and Google will give you a password that you can use in your applications, third-party applications. Yeah, so I'm going to put the name. I already created this, but I'm going to delete this one, and to show you, I'll create a new one. Let's name the app as Netflix, and I'm going to click on create. Once I create, this will give me a password, something like this, which is what we are going to use in our Jenkins to send notifications every time a pipeline has been running and we get the reports. So let's go here in the dashboard section. For enabling notification, you need to after you add the username and password in your credentials section, click on manage Jenkins again. In the manage Jenkins, you need to click on system, and in the system, scroll down to the end where you get the email notification part. So this here, for SMTP server, we are going to put smtp.gmail.com because that's the SMTP server. For this, you need to put your username. So I'm going to say I am Batman the Goat @gmail.com. In the advanced section, you need to choose the authentication. For we are going to use SMTP and SSL. So you need to copy the same thing here. So copy paste, and password is going to be the password that you got from Gmail. So I'll get this, and you are going to use the SMTP port as 465. Next, we don't need to put anything in the reply to address option. And now if I test the configuration, I can put a sample email here and see if it works. You should be able to see that email was successfully sent. And if I show you my mail here, I should have a test email, which is here, test email from Jenkins. And then in this section, which is extended email notification, you need to enter the same thing, which is smtp.gmail.com. The port is going to be 465 as we had used earlier. In the advanced section, you need to select the credential as the one that you have added. You need to set SSL, and for default content type, you're going to use HTML. The triggers for always or if there are any failures. So yeah, that is all you need. Click on apply, click on save. Now add a section in a pipeline to send notifications. So let's go to our pipeline section, which is in Netflix. Click on configure option, and in this we are going to add a post stage notification. When everything is done, we will have to, so I'm going to add it here. So in here we need to paste this, which is the post stage section, and that should send us this email containing the build. And I'll be sharing this entire script in the GitHub, so you don't need to worry about it. Only thing you need to do is to change your email ID here. I need to remove this part, which is to change email here. Okay, once you do that, just click on apply option. Then the script is not approved, it will not be approved. On save, either modify the script and click on approve script option. It says script approved. Click on apply and click on save option. Now once I do this, I'm going to click on build now. If it runs, which means the script has been approved, or else you will get an error something like this which says script not approved. So make sure you click on that button and then it will start running the pipeline. So at the end of this pipeline, we should have scans created for Sonarqube, for dependency check, also for Trivy. We also want to have an image being deployed on Docker Hub, and then after the image has been deployed, we can use that image, or anyone on the internet can use that image as it's a public image, to deploy their applications on Kubernetes, on ECS, wherever they want to. So till the time it is going to be done, let's go ahead with creating a Kubernetes cluster, because it usually takes time. So I'm going to click on Kubernetes cluster here, EKS, and click on add cluster, click on create option. Let's name this as Netflix. You can name this anything. Version is going to be the same. For cluster, I'm using the default one. If you don't have a cluster role, make sure you watch my previous video where I've shown you the policies. It's just, or else you can simply search for EKS role cluster or cluster role, and it will give you the links, which is this one, and you can use this to create your own role. Similarly for node as well. So, or else you can just watch my previous video where I've shown you the roles of how to create it. Then click on next, and in this section I'm going to use the VPC as default. I'm removing all my private subnets and also removing this US East 1A because I don't have space to launch servers in it. After I do this, for security group, I'm going to use my default one, but you can use any. Make sure you're using the correct one. For cluster endpoint, I'm making it public. Click on next. No need for logging, no need to change any add-ons, just the default ones. Click on next, next, review everything, and click on create. This will start creating a cluster. In this cluster, we are going to set up Argocd and install Prometheus and Grafana. Install Prometheus using Helm charts and check the monitoring on the monitoring server. Now let's go back to this, and you can see it's still creating, and you also have a Sonarqube analysis being created as we have integrated, so you can check it if you want to. Now once this cluster is being created, then we can go ahead and add our node groups. We are going to add one node group of T2 medium or T2 large because we are going to have Argocd, and Argocd requires you to have 4 GB of RAM, as we discussed in the previous GitOps video where we also deployed a Tetris game as a demo. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out, the previous video on GitOps, where you will learn how to deploy a Tetris game on Kubernetes using Argocd. So now the cluster has been created and our pipeline is also running fine. Let me show you that these are the checks. It also gives you the email whenever the pipeline has run, or if it shows you failure. Let me show you that. You can see this is the failure email which we got along with the Trivy fs.txt and the build log, which is the scans, and you can open it up if you want to. Then you also get the success emails whenever your pipeline has ran successfully. You can see it's here. So this is our pipeline completely. Now our pipeline is up and we have everything working fine. Let's go ahead with deploying it on Kubernetes as we were doing. So I'm going to go to compute section, click on add node group. In the node group, let's name this as nodes. For the IAM role, I'm selecting the my Amazon EKS node role. If you don't know how to do it, again do a quick Google search of EKS node IAM role, and you will go to the official documentation which will explain you how to do it, or else you can watch the previous video where I showed you the different policies that you need to have in this particular role. Click on next. I'm going to choose T3 medium, and I'm just going to have one instance running, so I'll make it 1, and yeah, that's all we need. Click on next option, and I'm going to remove this private subnet. Click on next, click on create. This will create our nodes. So till the time the nodes are going to be created, let's go ahead and quickly install Argocd. So I'm going to open my terminal. First thing we need to do is to set the context to start using this particular cluster, and I can do that by running AWS EKS update -cube config --name Netflix --region is going to be US-east-1. So this will set the context to start using this particular cluster. And if I do kubectl get pods, we don't have any pods because this is a new cluster. Alright, let's go and quickly install Argocd. To install Argocd, you can do Argocd ks installation and open this link. I'm going to paste the link for this in the description, so don't need to worry, and simply copy the commands that are present here. So copy this command and paste it. Let's wait for this to be done. So now what we are going to do is to install Argocd on this and then deploy our application using Argocd. Also have monitoring setup on this cluster using Helm. So I already have the Helm commands present on my GitHub repo, and you can use that. So if you see here below in the Kubernetes section, you can see create a Kubernetes cluster, monitor Kubernetes with Prometheus, and we are going to run these commands using Helm charts. We are going to configure monitoring on this server. So if you don't have Helm installed, go ahead and install Helm. I already have it installed. To install Helm, you can simply do a Google search and say install Helm on your machine. It can be Ubuntu, it can be Windows or anything, and you can get the commands from here. Now after you do that, once the Argocd is installed, you can do kubectl get ns, and to confirm that your Argocd is installed, you can say kubectl get all -n Argocd. So you'll see that pods for Argocd are up and running. So go back to the same. So in this next, we need to click on this option here next, and we need to expose our Argocd server, and we can do that using a service. So I'll paste this command here, and this will expose the Argocd service. So a service has been created. We need to wait for some time because this service is a load balancer, so it will create a load balancer in our AWS dashboard. Once the load balancer is created, we can get the DNS and log into Argocd, connect our repo, and deploy it automatically. So till the time this is going to be created, let's go and run these commands for Helm one by one. So I'm going to add this repo for Prometheus and then create a namespace for this. Press enter, then install the node exporter using Helm, and this will go ahead and use this chart which is present, and this will install Prometheus with node exporter that you can add as a job in the monitoring server that we have, and it will start monitoring our Kubernetes in these targets as well. This is almost the end of the project. I hope this has been helpful for you. So let's do the last part, and then you can share your learnings on LinkedIn. Make sure to tag me. I'll be sharing you all the code, and if you have any questions, any doubt, feel free to reach me out in the comment section or on LinkedIn. I'll try to reply everyone. So now it says it has been deployed, and you can also check that by running kubectl get ns, and you should have a namespace with this name. So kubectl get Prometheus kubectl get pods Prometheus node exporter, and you can see that the pods are running for node exporter. So the node exporter has been installed using Helm. Now let's go and expose our Argocd server. So we get the DNS here. So I'm going to clear the screen, paste this here, and now we should be able to so the server DNS is stored at this path. Let me show you. I'll do echo $, and this will give me the endpoint. So I'm going to copy this endpoint and open it in a new tab. This will open up Argocd page. You click on advanced, click on continue. Now Argocd requires you to have username and password to sign in. We know the username, which is admin, but for the password you need to run the next command, which is to export Argocd password in this variable argo_pwd. So once that is done, I'm going to run the same command which I ran for server and say echo $argo_pwd. This is the password. Let's use this and try to sign in. So I'm going to put the password here. The username is admin. Click on sign in, and we should be inside our Argocd. So that is what it is. Let's go and connect our repo. I'm going to click on the repositories here. Click on connect repo using HTTPS, and for the repo you need to copy your repo, or you can use my if you are not doing it. So I'm going to click on copy and do this, paste my git URL here, but the project is going to be default, and you don't need any username and password because this is a public one. So I'll click on connect option, and this says successfully connected. Alright, now coming back to Argo homepage, you can click on these and click on new app. We need to create an app which will then fetch the data or the manifest file present in our Kubernetes folder here. So I'll create an app. Let's name this app as Netflix. Project name is going to be the default one. For sync policy, I'll make it automatic so that it can automatically sync any changes made in the manifest. Now for repository URL, I'm using the same one that I connected right now. The revision is head. The path is going to be Kubernetes, so make sure you use the same name with K capital. So Kubernetes, and yeah, for the cluster URL, I'm going to use this one, namespace. And if I do kubectl get ns, you can see this is the default one. Let's put this here. So I'll say default, click on save. This will save it. Now let's try to sync again. So I'm going to sync, click on force and synchronize, click on OK, and the error should be gone now. Within some time we'll see that our application is up, and we can, this application is actually node port, using a node port service. So if I show you this service, it is using a node port service and it is working on port 3007. So I need to access this, and so come back to your nodes. In your node, click on the node section here after you refresh, and copy the IP address of this node, which is here. Let's copy it. Optionally, you can also do it load balancer type if you want to. In this node, make sure that the port is open for 3007, or else you will not be able to access your application, because your application is actually running on port 3007, which is mentioned here in the node port. So 30,007 should be open, and I'm going to open that now. So going in my security group for nodes, I'm going to click on here and add role custom TCP 30007, and anywhere IPv4 will say app port, app node port, and then click on save. Once I do that, I'll open my new IP, a new tab, paste the node IP on 3007, and we'll press enter. Now we should have an application running, and you can see an application is running here, which means we have now successfully created an application that is having security, that is having CICD, it's using Argocd, using, so GitOps is also there, and we also have monitoring using Prometheus and Grafana. Now let's try to do the monitoring and add it here in the Prometheus, and for us to do that, we need to change the prometheus.yaml file in our monitoring. So I'll go there, go to cd etc prometheus, and if you do ls sudo nano prometheus.yaml. In this, we need to add a job that is going to scrape metrics for our nodes, for our Kubernetes cluster, and we need to add the path as well. So if you look at this manifest file for node exporter service, it's working on 900,000. So if I open my IP address on port 900,000, you will see that the node exporter has been installed here. Let's see that, and you need to also open that port again in your node exporter service. I'll go here in my EC2 dashboard, click on edit inbound rules. So in the node port, in the node security group, you need to have 30,007 and also 9100 opened for our node port, for our node exporter. Node exporter, click on save, and once you save this, now if you refresh, you should be able to see that a node exporter has been installed after you paste your IP on port 9100, so 9100, and if you press enter, you can see node exporter is installed. If I click on metrics, so this is where you get the metrics for your Kubernetes cluster. Let's go and add that in our this section here. So I'll say job name colon, let's name this as K8, and then we are going to put static on metric path. So metric path is /metrics. So we can put that, or else by default it's the same. So I'll say metrics underscore path is going to be /metrics, and then the static configs For targets, put your node IP with the port 9100. So I'll say my node IP, which is this :9100, close the bracket, and this. Save this, run the commands to check if the syntax is correct or not, and also the commands to reload, which you can get in the section here. So I'll say prom tool, and this is the command to check the syntax. If I run this, it should give me success or failed. It is giving me fail because we haven't done the indentation correctly. We need to do it correctly like this. And now if I save it, let's try to run it again. Yeah, it says success now. After you get the success option, click on this to reload and reload it. After reloading, you should be able to see the cluster endpoint here in the target section. Yeah, you can see cluster is up, and you also have the endpoints coming up, which means we have now successfully deployed our application. To summarize again, we started with a single server where we cloned the code and deployed the application locally on a container. Then we added security using Sonarqube and Trivy. We included Jenkins to have CICD pipeline. Then we added Prometheus and Grafana. We deployed this application on Kubernetes using Argocd, and the monitoring was done through Helm. I hope this was informative. Let me show you how can you delete all these resources after you are done with the project and after you have posted this on LinkedIn, tagging me as well so that I can share. Also make sure you put a nice description if you're including this on resume, because this is going to be a very good resume that covers all the important tools: Kubernetes, Helm, Argocd, Jenkins, Prometheus, Grafana, Sonarqube, Trivy, OApps. All the important tools are mentioned, so make sure you describe them properly in your resume. If you have any questions, let me know about this and I can create a sample or template that you can include in the resume for this particular project. So let's go with deleting all the stuff that we have now. First thing you need to go, if you have this Kubernetes cluster, is to delete the node group in the Kubernetes. So I'm going to go here and select in the compute section, I'm going to select the node group and click on delete. You need to add the name of the node, which is nodes. Click on delete, and this will delete the node group for you. Once the node group is deleted, we can then delete our cluster. So let's wait for that. Let's go to EC2 section. In the EC2 section, if you are doing the Argocd part, you also need to delete the load balancer, which is here. So I'm going to select the load balancer and click on delete. So let's confirm, delete, and then you also need to delete the 2 instances you have. So let's delete these 2 instances. Click on terminate, and this will terminate the instances. Now once you do that, you also need to delete your elastic IPs, or else you will get charged if you're not using it. So I'm going to go to elastic IPs, select these 2, click on action, click on release elastic IP. If you get an error, you need to select one of them, click on disassociate and disassociate it. Do the same for the second one. So Netflix, disassociate, and after you disassociate it, then you can release them. So let's click on action and release this. This will be deleting your elastic IPs too. So yeah, this is what you will be doing to delete everything that you have in your machine and to avoid getting charged after you do your project. So once you delete this, wait for some time and you will be able to delete your cluster as well, because cluster requires you to delete the node group, and that usually takes some time. So if I try deleting the cluster now, you can see it's going to ask you to delete the node group in the compute tab. Okay, so wait for this, and after some time you should be able to delete your cluster too.
So this was the project. If you're still with me on this part of the video, I hope all of you have completed the project. But if you have any issues, let me know in the comment section. And if you did complete the video, make sure to mention it in your resume and also share it on LinkedIn. Also tag me if you're sharing it on LinkedIn. I hope this video was informative and it taught you a lot. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a good day.